Welcome to Challenges to Triumphs. I'm Kerry Proudman, also known as Practical Awareness for All. Each month, I sit down with someone who's faced real-life challenges and found a way to rise through them. These are honest, powerful stories from people I know and admire shared with you as a reminder that if they can do it, you can too. I am so glad you're here. Let's meet this month's guest. Okay, welcome to Challenges to Triumphs. This month we have Sarah from the Mindful Parent Club joining us. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, love. So this podcast is all about how someone who has had a lot of challenges in their life and how they've turned them into like a triumph. And a triumph can mean whatever you want it to mean. And they come on and they share their story, and with the hope that they'll inspire other people to do the same in some way or some form. So would you like to share your story with us today?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that would be a good place to start. So, I'm Sarah. I am the founder of Mindful Parent Club, which is a parent coaching and education service. I'm certified parenting coach, and I've got a background in child and adolescent mental health. And not forgetting that I am a mum to one beautiful boy, and he's 10. But I'll start from the very start of like how that became about and where that really came into fruition from. So my story really, I'd say probably best starting at childhood and then working my way up from that. I My childhood, I obviously you know me mum and she won't mind me saying this, but my mum was an alcoholic when I was younger. So she did experience that when I was growing up. And so obviously that was you know, a little bit of a difficult childhood going through that. There was stages where my mum was sober and things like that. I always speak to my mum, but from 0 to 7, she was sober and then she started drinking again. So obviously that influenced my childhood. However, I didn't feel like it did. So I had that experience, but from when I was like 18, I felt like I was really resilient. And I always used to say, I'm grateful for my experience in childhood because it's made me who I am now, today, because I was really like go out and, go out and get life. I went traveling and as soon as I could, like around, lived abroad and then went traveling around Asia and then lived in Australia and done all these things because I felt like I was really resilient and really wanted a lot out of life because I feel like that contrast to my childhood, it didn't, where obviously we know that people can like respond to different experiences in a life differently. And my response to that was, okay, I want to, like go out and get more from life. So I was always like, I didn't feel like, oh, poor me, I'd had this childhood. And not forgetting, like it wasn't like I had a family around me that was very supportive as well. My mum wasn't always constantly drunk and stuff, but obviously as a child that is going to be influencing you. But I was very grateful and I felt it was really maybe resilient. So then fast forward, I then had my son. I didn't really think too much into my childhood experience or anything like that and think, oh, that's, got to think about this. And I felt like I was quite intentional and on having my son. I was like really wanted to have like a water birth, breastfeed him and done all these things like before giving birth, like to prepare for it. But then I didn't feel like I really thought much about how I was going to be a parent or how that actually, like, how to do that thing. I just, you just kind of go into it blind, don't you? And then when I actually early on started, it was kind of very like parallel with my own like personal development journey. Because when I think back of like what was like that like light bulb that switched me really my own growth. Um I feel like it was having my son, but also my personal experience in a relationship and things like that. So I started to read a lot about not only like child development, parenting and things, but also like about my own self. Like I got into a lot about like psychology and things like that. And yeah, because I wanted to, there was something inside me that obviously I wanted to, really learn how to be a parent, but then also alongside, it's all kinds of, when you start looking into it, it's all, child development, psychology, it all matches up. So I was learning a lot about myself and becoming a parent. And what I learned blew my mind. I was like, that was the first time that like bulb moment, like, oh, actually, like my childhood experiences actually influence me now as an adult. Like, it's not like, okay, that happened, let's just move on from that. It's not, it actually does shape you as a human being. Like, and I was like, I didn't know that, like, until I knew that. And I was like, why aren't we like told this more? Like, why is this not like, okay, this is really gonna show up in your adult life? And then when that came into my awareness, then I actually started to see how it was showing up in my relationships. And pretty much I could see how, I was getting into unhealthy relationship patterns because of that. And that was never in my awareness before that. So learning that really then made me go a lot more deep dive into, right, okay, I've got to like take this parenting role really serious. Not that I wasn't like that anyway, but understanding just how much responsibility I had at shaping this human being's brain, like, really, like, was a bit scary for me, but also, like, again, I'm that type of person, it was, like, a big driving for me, and it was just something that I loved to deep dived into, say, child development, psychology, parenting, self-development, and then I went into, like, study, counselling. I was going to go and do a counselling psychotherapy degree, and then I changed last minute to children's mental health because I thought, actually, I want to work with children. I want to support children because that's the best place to start. And so I went and done my degree, and all the things that I learned again, I thought, no, actually, I want to support the parents. And obviously, I was having my own parenting experience alongside this and seeing all the difficulties that can come with it and not really knowing how to navigate it. And all along, just thinking, why aren't we given more support for this when we actually, it's like the most important thing that we do, and we just don't. I don't think as a society we really take notice that we all just kind of do it on autopilot. We're trying to do the best that we can. Everyone thinks everyone's got it together, and I don't feel like none of us really know what we're doing. So that really spurred me on to. I went and worked in which children and families and children's services for a little bit, and I just didn't feel like I was where I was meant to be. Um, I felt like I still want that was really like crisis driven support, and I really still felt like there was needed to be a more proactive approach to parenting support where because my dissertation I wrote on parenting support, and there was actually what I found is that there's a big stigma attached to parenting support. Parents feel, fearful to reach out for support, especially in children's services, from fear of being judged, and also fear of like my kids will be taken off me. And then um we just kind of get on with it. But I did find that parents did wish there was more support. So I was like, this I've kind of created what I would have wanted when obviously it's created this journey for me. But I think, if I was to see the type of, the conversations we've had, the type of person I am, if I seen like from the day dot that there was like someone who could coach me on how to be a parent, I would have like took that straight away. But I didn't
Yeah.
know that that was something then. And I went on this really deep dive journey into all things child development, self-development, psychology, and I've got to where I am today because I believe this is obviously what I'm meant to do. So
Yeah.
really, like, I had that experience of understanding that parenting is not just about what we do to our child, what we give our child. We're very focused on that in our society. It's how we are being in front of what we're modeling. They are being shaped by what they see us act like daily. We really need to look at ourselves, and we really need to make sure, am I showing up as this person that would I be happy with my child being the type of person I am? Looking at your relationships, looking at how you show up daily, your habits and things like that, that's gonna shape your child more. So that is really, really what's been like the driving force for me to be here today, is understanding that. And I think it's hard because parents, we all want to do our best. We all really do. We're all juggling so much. And it's hard. It's hard, like, to parent in this modern day.
Hmm.
So I feel like we just need more support now more than ever. So I want to kind
So so rewind back then. So when you were like, so you didn't really feel like, so you knew that your mum did when you were a little girl, did you understand that your mum had her own issues? Can you remember that from being young?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I was saying, me and my mum always say again, she remind me saying this. I remember the first drink that she had after not drinking for 10 years. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I remember seeing her in the pub after my uncle died,
Yeah.
getting a
And I
bottle of.
suppose that was like a trigger to think, oh my goodness, I'm going to go back to what she was like before,
Mhm.
all of them different things. So you said that, so you had a childhood with your mom. And was your dad there?
My dad was, but they separated after
Yeah.
when I was like 7. They
Yeah.
separated. My dad's always been there, but yeah, I lived a little bit with my dad, a little bit with my mum.
Yeah. And did
Um,
you have siblings?
yes, I had 2 brothers, still 2.
Yeah.
They lived with my both nans because of
Okay.
yeah.
So it was just you and your mum on your own, really,
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah.
a lot of time.
He was
So
at
that means that like
living.
whatever was good, like what you turned around and said then was, whatever's being modeled to us by our parents, especially our main caregiver, because there's
Mhm.
always one main caregiver, because someone's naturally, if you're in a two-parent family, one person tends to work more hours than the other, and one tends to be more at home and making sure that everything's, being created and run perfectly or, the best you can at home. So that was just you and your mom. And then you said as you got older, you didn't feel like that, it had really impacted you,
Mhm.
other than you felt like, well, I don't want that for me.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do things differently. And you
Mhm.
felt like you gained a lot of resilience.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like that bounce back ability and like that determination to do things differently. So then you went off and you did your travels and then you
Mhm.
came back home. So
Yeah.
then I presume that you met someone who you
Yeah.
fell in love with
Yeah.
and then you decided to have your son. So
Mhm.
was it only when you had your son that you realized what kind of impact your childhood has had on you?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I thought I was quite self-aware before that. I'd done all this travel and I'd done meditating with monks. I thought I was, and it was like a onion being like, peeled. Like when I had my son, it was just like
So,
a.
okay, then, so when you had your son, then what made you think that? Because you obviously thought to yourself, well, I don't want to do it the exact same way as my mum did it. I want to do it my own way.
Mhm.
Was that the light bulb moment where you thought, I, I don't want to do it this way. I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to do it in the same way that I was brought up in. I want to do it in my own unique way,
Mhm.
but I don't really know how to do that. Was it that, like, kind
Yeah,
of?
I'd say there wasn't like it's so hard to like think that one pinpoint moment
Yeah.
of when it happened, but it was very like coinciding with looking at my relationship patterns and realizing, why do we put ourselves in these dynamics? Where does that come from? And that all
Yeah.
boils down to our childhood, as you know, and realizing, wow, if I've really been influenced and shaped this way, I need to really reflect on what other things am I not aware of that I might be modeling to my son. It just really made me think I need to look at myself.
So it was something in your relationship that made you think, okay, like behaviors that were coming out,
Mhm,
like behaviors, thought,
mhm,
looping patterns that were going round that made you think, no, I need to break this. Otherwise, the
mhm.
only place that we're going is in a direction that I don't want to go in.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what did you do with that information? Is that when you decided to start a course?
Yeah, so I think, it was again, I'd done a lot of reading, it was like on my own little journey, and then that's when I was like, "Oh, okay, this is probably something I'd like to do."
Okay,
Um
so you stopped and you went and looked at a book. You went to go and find a book. So you were like looking because depending on what type of learner you are, some of us are naturally like kind of more inclined to go down the route of self-development, aren't we? Like
Mhm,
go online and go, find me a book on, and
mhm,
whatever the issue that you're struggling with, you might go and do a bit of research on that yourself. So is
mhm.
that was that your first step on this new path? You went and found a book or you listened to a podcast?
Well, I think it was more so like reading bits of stuff, and then I'm realizing that I'm not sure where what first book it will have been, but I was just like that type of way inclined anyway. And then starting to realize, okay, and then the more things you read, you find something else, you find something
Yeah.
else, and then I really thought, okay, I when you go down that self-development journey, therapy is the thing, isn't it? So I got really into that, and I thought this is something I want to do. And obviously you learn so much about understanding your childhood of how you're shaped as a child through doing counselling and things like that. And it just made me deeply understand more. And then obviously when you I don't think, like, before that, I'd really reflected on how am I going to parent? How am I going to show up in this? It was just it was like blind to me. It's like you just think I'm just gonna do it. You just don't
Yeah.
think that much like
Well,
that.
as you so we all do that, don't we? So we all
Yeah,
go in thinking, I think we all go in with the mindset that we want to be a type of parent, because I grew up in a house where my dad ruled our house with an iron fist, and my mum was quite she was just dead soft. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
She was just dead loving, and she was like she just do like she never took. My dad was dead strict and
mhm,
like, do as I say, not as I do, and he
yeah,
ruled the house with a lot of fear. But he was still a good dad. Do you know what I mean? He had good intentions, but he was conditioned. Like he grew up in a family. He was one of 12. He grew up in a family where his dad used to beat them all up,
yeah,
and beat his mum up.
yeah,
So as he kind of decided to become a dad and he married my mum, he didn't beat my mum up. But
yeah,
he didn't treat her that nice either, if I'm gonna be honest. And he was super strict with us. And he didn't beat me up, but he used to like hit my brother
yeah,
because I was like more like if he said do something, I'd just do it.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So he did rule the house with fear, whereas my brother had just like he'd just rebel and he'd just get a slap or
mhm,
whatever. So I didn't agree with how my dad brought us up. I loved that he was dead adventurous, and I loved that he like kind of he made us tough in like ways. He'd always go, he wouldn't molly us as such, like,
yeah,
if we failed at something, go, okay, well, you give it a go, but you need to go and give it another go.
mhm,
He was kind of a bit tough like
yeah,
that. And my mum was the other side of, you know, she just made sure all your food was there, and but she was like she did do what my dad told her to do,
mm,
and she never had no say. If you said to me, mum, can I do this, she'd go, oh, you need to go and ask your dad. So when
mhm,
I decided to have my children, I didn't want to be like my dad,
mm,
but I didn't want to be like my mum. I wanted to be like the best version of my dad and the best part of my mum, and I wanted to be that together. But but I'm only laughing now because I probably, if I'm being truly honest, you know, I probably didn't do that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And throughout like my own journey of self-development, I've probably been little bits of my dad and little bits of my mum. They come in and out, and then I put my own little flow on it. So
yeah,
when, I went to university, and I did, because I trained to be a teacher, and I was a primary school
yeah,
teacher for 15 years, and it was through my own training of being a teacher, and working with children constantly, that made me a better mum,
yeah.
because I had an idea of what type of mum I wanted to be,
Yeah.
but I certainly didn't know how to be it.
Exactly. Well, that's so it's interesting, like you say that what you're saying about the two different styles your parents had of parenting. Basically, I made a video about it the other day. Sounds like your dad was more authoritarian.
Oh, he
He was,
was?
yeah, the strict, the harsh, the punishment. Your mum was more permissive, very soft, very warm, but didn't
Yeah,
really very much say, many boundaries. And you wanted to be in the middle, which is what we want to be, is like that
yeah,
authoritative. We want to be that warmth, that like loving, but with still with that firm, with those boundaries and with
yeah,
things like you say your dad would, like, go and do it again. That's what you do want. But that's what most parents want to do. But
yeah,
again, we are working from inherited like
yeah.
blueprints,
Oh, it was
unconscious
totally, yeah,
blueprints.
it was totally
Yeah,
conditioned behaviors.
yeah,
And then the thing was, I'd seen myself because I thought that I had greater self-awareness as well. I mean,
yeah,
my two sons are adults now, so but like I thought I had good self-awareness, and I was in university when my son was very young, and that really, really helped, because a lot of the stuff that we were learning, because I was training to be a primary school teacher, was about children's development. So as I was learning how children best develop,
Yeah,
it was like looking at a mirror of me and myself, and I was like, well, if I'm going to be like this, am I going to be able to help them develop in that way? And to
yeah,
be honest, the answer was no. It
mhm,
was no, because I was kind of being too, I was I was racing from being my dad to my mum and then trying to find me in between. And
yeah,
then my husband, he had all his conditioned behaviors from
yeah,
growing
yeah,
up with quite a tough mum and then losing his dad when he was quite
mhm,
young. His dad died when he was young. So him being like the oldest in the family and being this role model. So you mix all that together and then you try and parent. And so we would disagree on our parenting style loads. And because I was quite dominant, in the end, Auntie would just like go, oh, it's just not worth the hassle. Like, just do it your own way then, go on then, just if you want to do it that way. And I just, over time, I just got like better.
yeah,
I
yeah,
hope I got better anyway.
yeah,
But if I'm going to be honest, it was through, it was through the training of being a primary school teacher that made me
yeah.
a better mum.
But that's the first step, and I say to my parents, it's the first step. We need to be informed and aware of these things because otherwise, like when we don't understand like a child's behaviours and we're seeing them through stories and labels as they're being naughty, they're doing this, then we respond in a way out of fear. Well, we need to stop that behaviour because otherwise they're going to grow up. We project they're going to grow up and be this if we don't stop this behaviour. So we go into that more authoritarian dynamic of that out of fear and control, and because we want to stop that behavior. But when we understand it from a developmental point of view and understand and see the child's behaviors for what they are, we are able to better respond in a way that's going to meet the needs and see like what they actually need support with, what help, what skills they need help building. And then you look at, well, is this approach that I'm taking actually going to help me do that? Is this punishment? Is that going to teach that? So that's where the first step is, that informed and awareness gives you that ability to start to reflect. Because when we are, we want to be, we know it's, I think now it's like it must be a societal thing. We now know what children need, and how it's not like we know that like that harsh like beating your kids up is wrong, and it's not good for them. I don't think years ago they did because of the societal narrative then around children and this research and all that that used to be filtered down. That's why parents, the things that they were told to treat the children. Like that's where it came from. Now we have a bit more understanding. So it filters.
But though, what I would turn around though to that, Sarah, and say is, what as parents, like, and I don't know what it feels like to have a young parent now, be a young parent now with young children, because it's even changed in like the last
Yeah,
20 years. When I think about 20 years ago, like my children didn't have phones when they were toddlers
yeah,
or iPads when they were sitting in the prams. Do you know what I mean? We still just had toys. They had DSs or Game Boys and stuff like that,
yeah,
but they were just playing games. So, and what I still think is like really prevalent is, as parents, if we've still got close relationships with our own parents, they're still feeding us the information that they think is still going to work, because
yeah,
their memory of how they brought us up
yeah,
is very different, by the
yeah,
way, than the memory that we've got of being brought up. You know what I mean? So they'll be turning around and putting their like tuppence worth in, you might say,
yeah.
of like, well, do it this way, you're just being a bit, so you're getting so many mixed messages.
Well, you're getting the judgments as well, so it's hard. That's another thing that, parents need to overcome, that fear of judgment when they are trying to do it differently and taking that ego out of it and going, "I know what's best for my child." You are gonna get judgment from, maybe you did, the different, in-laws and things like that, and you are gonna maybe sometimes feel like you'll be judged in society when you're taking different approaches. That's something that you need to overcome and go as, "Well, am I going to be, ruled by my fear of being judged, or do I know what's best for my child in this moment?" And that's another thing the coaching goes into. That it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
And then the thing is, though, what I would also say is, it is really, really important to look at things from many different perspectives, because obviously our elders, our mums and dads, and our nans and granddads have got great wisdom that,
yeah,
we should listen to, but then make a decision on, well, is that my style of parenting? But not like just like totally take it off the table, because obviously that's how wisdom's being passed down
Yeah.
for, generation after generation. So there's
Mhm.
some good stuff in there as well. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't say like just wipe everything off,
No,
but
100%.
listen,
Yeah.
see, do they have a perspective that is in alignment with the way I want to bring up my children at this moment in time in 2025,
Mm.
and make a decision from there? And that's really difficult,
Yeah.
especially when in this day and age now, most parents are both working a lot of
Mm.
hours,
Mhm.
and they spend very little time at home. So back in the day, maybe for my
Yeah.
nana, had 9 children. She was at home all the time, and my granddad went out to work. So,
Yeah.
most mums now are probably trying to hold a full
Yeah.
time job, and trying to parent the children in the best way that they can. So it's
No,
like they're
100%.
getting it from all angles, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I say as well. But that's why I feel like now more than ever we need the support more than ever. Like you've just said, yeah, we have generations and we do have wisdom passed down, but I don't feel like we have enough of it passed down now because we are no longer in these, in these close knit like connections with when we moved further away. We don't like really live close by to our family. We used to be raised in villages. We don't have that like style anymore. So we don't really have that much wisdom passed down. Then also we're juggling all these things like working and all these other responsibilities. Life's so fast paced. So we've got so much more. And like you say, children now we're up against like different things like this, the screens and the rate of rise in mental health for children. Parents have so much more to be, tackling as well. So I feel like that is it's not the same as the way our
No.
parents were parents, and it's complete like society's changed in like just like
Yeah.
what is really
Like
recent time.
20 years, like in a very short space of time. It's massive, and it's continuing to change at a
Mm,
really, really fast speed, isn't it? What happened 5 years ago is not where we are right now. And
yeah,
I feel like, as you talk about like extended families, back in the day,
same.
when grandparents were much more able to help their children with looking after their children if they had to go to work. Grandparents are now having to work till they're much older. So they haven't, and they're older, and you have less energy as you get older because, you just do. And you're still trying to keep a job down, and then you're trying to help your daughter or your son out with
Yeah,
childcare because you know that they can't afford,
yeah,
maybe the nursery fees and whatnot. So
yeah,
it is a crazy, crazy world. But like to bring it back to like conditioned behaviours, because I think conditioned behaviours is massive. And I was a primary school teacher for 15 years, and what you would turn around and see is you would see like the children being brought up in a certain family, and then
mm,
as they got a little bit older, especially when they were getting like to year 5 and year 6, and we used to do some like we used to have like special days, like, so just like a day out of normal school work, and we might do, like special days where what do you want to be when you're older, and we try and inspire these young people to be the best that they could be, and not necessarily look back on what their mum or their dad had been, or their nan or their granddad, and make them believe that they could be anything that they
yeah,
wanted to be,
mm,
regardless of what type of childhood that they'd had. And
mm,
you would see some children who had a challenging upbringing, and didn't come from a family where they had like inspirational figures, like, if you see like, say a family whose mum is a surgeon and their dad is, whatever job, and then you'll see their children
yeah,
being really encouraged
mhm,
to go off and be something similar
yeah,
to what they've done. But if
yeah,
your mum and dad have been part of the benefit system and never really had a
mm,
job, then
yeah,
what children are seeing is like, I used to get some children on them days who just be like, oh, well, like one little girl came when she was in year 5, and she said to me, well, I'll just be like me mum, and, I'll have kids. And my mum had 7 children,
yeah,
and the dad wasn't around anymore. And she used to say, I'll just be like me mum, and I'll get paid twice a week. And what she meant was she'll get a benefit on a Wednesday and she'll get a benefit on a Friday. And, you know, she'll have her children, and that was, and I was like, yeah, you can have, and but I was kind of looking, going, well, you can have all of that. Of course you can have that. But what else do you want to do with your life? Do you want to do something else? And I'm not just saying, there are some people who truly just want to be a mum, and that's what they want to be in life. But often what children see every single day inspires them in their life, and it kind of reflects on what they're
Yeah,
going to do and what they're going to be. And I feel like as parents, if we want to understand how to best bring up our children, then the thing that we really, really need to understand is they are looking at us subconsciously, you know, without even, they're not doing it, not glaring at us every single day and going, oh, what's my mum doing today? They're
yeah,
naturally just mirroring and picking up our behaviours, our words, our thought
yeah.
patterns, everything.
Mhm.
They're just absorbing that every single day. So when we understand that, and when we've got a lot of self-awareness, like when we can hold a mirror up to ourselves and go, is that the version of, am I being the version of myself that I really want my children to be
Yeah,
and to be conditioned by? And if that's a yes, then honestly, just high
mhm,
five, you know what I mean? Isn't that amazing that you're looking at yourself thinking, but I think if people were being truly honest, because people are very good, especially women, at looking in the mirror and noticing every single flaw that they've got, and knowing in their heart, I hope I do not project this onto my children. And if
mhm.
you understood that you're doing that without you even realizing it anyway, maybe that would inspire them to want to change themselves, so that they know that their children won't then grow up having them conditioned
Yeah,
behaviors that they often won't realize that they've got until they become a parent
yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was what I noticed when I become a mum. I did that, you know, I was 18 and went traveling for 6 years. I came home, I'd met someone, I wanted to have children. And it was only when I become a mum and when I did a bit of education that I realized, shit, I'm my dad. You know what I mean?
mm,
And I'm my mum, and I'm trying to be a little bit of myself, but I'm a mismatch. I'm a mishmash of all of these different people, and I had to do a lot of yeah, peeling back the onion, and I'm
yeah,
still doing that, by the way.
we
But
always do, yeah,
it's a lifelong
yeah,
journey, but it's got to start somewhere. And
yeah,
the earlier you start it, especially
yeah.
as a parent, the more your children are going to benefit from that.
Yeah, that's it. Because I think, it's a beautiful thing what our children do. They mirror all the things to us where we need to grow and maybe heal and things, and it's like, yeah, it we wanna do it as soon as possible or as early as possible, but, you know, that it's never too late to
No,
start growing
no.
and learning and stuff, and you've gotta be careful of that as well because people might think, "Oh my god, well, you know, my kid's this age now." It's never too late to start reflecting. We all have our own different
Yeah,
journey,
even if your children are adults. Do you know
even
what I
if
mean?
you
Because we
yeah,
know ourselves how much influence, as we're a grown adult and we're looking at our parents still for direction, especially when we have children, and especially when we need the help with, like, you know, their grandchildren, they want to be a part of their
yeah,
grandchildren's life. It's like everyone's kind of like, when you change, the ripple effect of you changing as a parent and as a person, not just as a mum,
mm,
that ripples out to your mum and your nan, and you don't even realize it does. And that
it
might
re
not be your intention, but it happens anyway. So it's a win 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 situation when you decide that you want to become a better parent.
yeah,
Even if you think you're a good parent right now, even you invest in yourself to become an 1% better parent, it's not just going to positively affect your children or your child. It actually has a positive effect on
yeah.
your friends, on your mom, on your dad, on your nan, on your granddad, because you changing just naturally ripples out in very subtle ways, which I just
That's what
love.
that's what I say, like, so I use the analogy of I wanna change the narrative about getting support of our parents, and we don't have to be failing, we don't have to be in crisis, we don't have to be having real challenges. Let's be honest, all parents have challenges, whether we like it or not, it's just part of it. But in other areas of our life, we are quick to seek support, guidance, like ourselves, to grow and to learn. We know if you want to get better in your career, you go and seek education. Even you want to go to the gym, you want to get better at your health. You'll see it as a positive getting a PT. Even like football players at the top of the game, they get football coaches to be better because we see like the value in excelling in these areas of our life, getting some support and guidance because it's a skill set and skills we can develop, and usually getting support with that. And that's what I say to parents: it's not like a sign that you're failing. Your parenting is a skill. It is an area that you can develop. Like, but for some reason with parenting, where it's a role that people will say it's like, it's the most important thing that they'll ever do in their life, and they want to obviously do the best, we still don't see it as something that we can grow in and we can definitely learn to be better. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong, but there's always room for improvement anywhere in any area of life, isn't there? Like, why would we not want to grow for the sake of our children and for ourselves? It's not just for our children. This is the thing. It's my work is parent centric. It, like you say, it influences your whole life, your whole all your relationships, how you show up day to day. It's not just about your parenting, but people, when they start to see these things reflected more because they come out, our children reflect these things where we need to probably grow the most, they trigger us the most. So that's why
Yeah.
it's a great place to start with your parenting. And just, yeah, looking at it as another area that we can grow in and we can develop. And we are in this society now more like, inclined to want to grow and to develop ourselves. We're really understanding, well-being and like investing in our health and well-being. This is another area you can invest in it. This is another area, how we're all focused on mental health now. We understand what mental health is. We are very proactive around it. This is the most proactive way you can be about of mental health, as you're securing your child's mental health, is really looking at how you're showing up in that relationship, because
Yeah.
that's what research shows is the biggest influence over your child's long life positive outcomes in all areas, academically, socially, emotionally, is the relationship and the quality of connection you have with your child. So why would you not want to look at that and go, okay, maybe what can I how can I improve? How can I grow? And it's not, and I always want to be careful that I don't want to make people feel like, you say, we've already got a lot on our plates. This is not something to like, oh, if you're not doing it, then you're a bad parent. Not at all. But I want to raise more awareness of it. Is this is actually, because I don't think some parents don't even know. They don't
No.
even know. They don't even see parenting as a skill set that you can develop in.
No.
They see it as a negative thing. If I'm not doing, if I need help my parents, and I must be a bad parent. I'm just trying to raise awareness that actually this is another way that you can look at it, um, rather than it being that like negative lens. So yeah.
Yeah. I think like a lot of like if you speak to like a lot of like adults who have got like issues, one of the first things that they will turn around and say is they'll tell you what their mum and dad was like.
Yeah.
They might turn around and say, well, and it you know I don't know. I hear it a lot. You know what I mean? So if they've got mental health issues, the first thing they'll say is, well, and they'll tell you exactly what kind of upbringing that they had. And often it is because they've had a challenging upbringing.
Mhm.
It's true. But at the other end of the scale, so if you even like go to the other end of the scale where you've got really, say, I don't know, say you've got professional parents
Mhm.
who have both done really well in their careers and they're wanting the best for their children. What they can actually do is they can put so much pressure on their children thinking that they're doing it for the right reasons and create something really quite similar.
Yeah.
So this is like totally across the board. Do you know what I mean? I think what I loved about like my primary school training was how scientifically backed it was. So it really wasn't about parenting at all, because that's not what it was about. It was about children, because I was a primary school teacher. But what it taught you was how the brain develops and all about behaviors and how, and I've done a lot of behavior management in my time. So when
Mm,
you go into the psychotherapy and the mind and the brain and behaviors, then you will start to understand how you speak and how you are a role model will
mhm,
affect your children as you bring them up. So, for example, when I was a teacher, I get on you did parent evenings, or your parents would want to speak to you about their children's behaviour at the end of the day. So I would tell them one version of their children in school, and then they would tell me a totally different version of their child. So what they'd
mhm.
say to me was, how can she or he be like this in school? And when I tell you what they are like for me at home, it looks like two totally different children. And that was very difficult for me because I'll be truthful what I wanted to say to them. And now I didn't know these parents very well, but from my observations and from what, because
Yeah,
children tell the teachers a lot, by the way. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? So from the stories that their children would tell me in school, and from my observations of the way I'd seen them react on the
mhm,
yard and stuff like that, then I could see why their children were two
mhm,
different people. So as
mhm.
they walked through the school doors and the way they were treated by their teacher, often with
Yeah,
respect, and their teacher understanding their needs at
mm,
that moment in their day.
yeah,
And then when they went home and then their parents not showing maybe in the same light. And I'm not saying anything
mhm,
about me it being a teacher and a parent, because it's totally different. But you are going to get different behaviors
yeah,
depending on how you speak, how you are as a person, how all of them different things is
yeah,
the result of what that how that child's going to behave when they're at home with
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And going back to what you were saying about the difference, when we think, okay, parents who they've done very well for themselves and not necessarily the ones that you say, okay, the more lower socioeconomic status and maybe the parents who are not working and things, which we can't judge because the many reasons why people are on benefits and things like that. But the parents who might, look like the higher socioeconomic status, they've got these good jobs, but then we see that on the outside is like we're conditioned to think, okay, that's the sign of like that parenting's okay, but and think maybe we don't need to look at it because again, it's the relationship that you have with your child. It's not the things you're doing for them or giving them that is going to influence them. Like yeah, pushing them to do. We focus a lot on academics and focusing on setting them up for the future and stuff, but we don't look much at how we are showing up in the relationship, how we are supporting the child, how we are how we're responding to their behaviors. Is their style of parenting more that like harsh strict punishment, or is it more permissive? It's likely parents who are pushing more, really wanting to get the child to achieve in life are going to be very more on the realm of authoritarian, which both you probably know the styles, don't you, of parenting, but they're authoritarian and permissive, which is the one that's more strict, more harsh, and the one that's more less boundaries. They're both connected to less favourable outcomes for the child in many different areas, where that authoritative is more connected to a child with the positive life outcomes. So it's like looking at there's still room to look at how am I showing up in this relationship with my child and what is
Yeah.
actually going to be supporting them. So as I've said that because we focus a lot on the parents because of the support that we see support for parent support in children's services, we always think it's just the parents who are in these more like poverty, they need the support. No, we need to be looking at all parents,
Yeah.
and
And that was the one thing that I noticed the most with with mums who used to come to me and say that, the children were very badly behaved at home, and you're telling me that they're really well behaved in school. Why is there such a difference? There was lots and lots and lots of reasons for that. But a lot of it was to do with the stress that them parents were under at home, whether it was the stress from the relationship that they were in, whether it was the stress from how many hours they had to work and they were running around like a lunatic. So like when I'd try and have a conversation with the children, because the best thing that worked at school was to have a really good connection between the teacher and the parent. And we used to have like books going home, and the children, I'd just say all of the things that has worked in school really well, and then the parents would try to take that to integrate that at home, and then they tell me what things were working really well at home, and then we try and integrate that in school. It was just the conversation between the school and the home really helped the children and the parents, and that's what we found worked the best. But for me, when I used to see like families, regardless of status, the
Mhm.
parents who prioritize some time to really connect with their children, like whether that was doing the homework with them, whether that was sitting there reading the book with them, whether
Mhm.
that was them going the park together, whether that was them. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. I mean, I
Mhm.
honestly, it didn't, it could be half an hour a day. And I
Yeah.
know that half an hour for a busy parent who works full time could cook the tea, could put a wash on, could you could hoover through. But for a child, it was everything. Because when I used to sit and have conversations with children about why maybe they were playing up for their mum, it was
Mhm.
like they turn around and say things like, well, she's always too busy, she just moans at me all the time. And they'd say all of these different things. Now, from a mum's perspective, she was saying, well, I've got to work full time, I've got to pay the bills, I'm a single parent. I've tried to tell them that, but they don't
Mhm.
understand. Well, of course they're not going to understand, because they're eight
Yeah.
years old and
Yeah.
all they want to do is spend time with their mum. And it
Mhm.
doesn't matter how much time it is, it just needs to be ring fence time, whether that's going to bed, whether that's listening to them
Yeah.
read the book, whether that's listen to their how the day's gone. But it's just not, it's children really pick up on, you're cooking tea, the mum's cooking the tea, and you're sitting next to them. Go on, then read me a chapter of your book, and then they're checking the phone, beep, beep, beep. The
Yeah.
child knows that that's not their time. So the conversations that used to come out were, and I'm going to be truthfully honest, they haven't got any time for me. So then they
Yeah.
get frustrated with the mum, and the mum gets frustrated because all she was, and I say the mum because it was mostly mums, and she get frustrated because she was absolutely, she was on her knees,
Yeah.
bending over backwards, trying to give them the best upbringing that she could. But all the child could feel was, you've never got time for me. You've only got time to go to work. And
Yeah.
yeah, they were just crying out for positive
Yeah.
attention. And when I say positive attention, I just mean connection, just
Yeah.
play, just something that was uninterrupted for them. And as a mum, yeah, that's hard going, because when your time is being zapped in millions of different directions, especially when you've got more than one child, then that can feel totally impossible.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I actually talk about this in my coaching. It doesn't even have to be half an hour. Say special time. Call it special time. And like you say, we feel like we're spending time for our children, but how often is it where it's actually undivided attention, like your complete undivided attention, and no distractions, no phones, where the child is feeling connected to you. I call special time when it's like they lead the play. They choose what they want to do. The phones are away, and you say, right, we've got this amount of time, whether it be 10 minutes, 5 minutes. That like specific like I can't, what's the word, that like time that you have said that this is for you is full connection time, and that is filling up like charging the battery for the child, because that connection is going to save you later on when you need your child to engage with you or listen to you, because that when our children feel more connected to us, they are gonna follow us more. But what we do is we're very disconnected to our children. We're not we feel like we are, but like you say, we're doing other things. Like we might be out with them, but we'll be on our phones, or we're working, and we're coming home and we're not really spending that much time with them. And yes, we are so busy and it is so hard, but this time that you put aside to spend with your child is gonna like save you um a lot
It comes
more.
back. It's going
Come
to come back a
Yeah,
hundredfold, isn't it?
yeah,
You think that you haven't got the time, and what it's actually going to do is it's going to create these stronger bonds, these stronger connections, and it's going to give you so much more back without you
yeah,
realizing what that is, and what without you realizing you don't even need to know what that is right now. But
Mhm.
the promise is from people who've done this
Mhm.
the hard way and are now trying to teach other people
Mm.
maybe some simple strategies of how to implement this with, almost no extra
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
It's just going to benefit in ways that you can't even see or fathom with the logical mind,
yeah,
but you are going to feel it and you're going to feel it in your heart and you're going to feel it with the strength of the connection that you are going to build with your children
yeah.
slowly in very small little steps over a long period of time because it's a journey from whatever day you decide to do something differently.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, and it's again, so going back to you saying about parents not having the time as well, and they're being burnt out and stuff. I say you've got to focus on the parent first, and you've got to give them space. They've got to have time for themselves. And again, we don't feel like we've got time, but we can make intentional, simplistic routines where we are filling our own cups first. That's the first thing, because if the parent's like stressed out and doesn't really want to spend that time with them, they're just thinking all in the back of the brain anyway. They're not going to be there fully connected
No,
to the child. So the first token I say with the parents is you need to really support your own nervous system, fill your own cup. How can you do that? What are we prioritizing that really just doesn't need to be? Where can we peel back things and make space amongst all this busy life? We still need to make space for you. Where can we look at the routines and in what you're following, so you can feel like you've got like a bit more space to breathe, and then
I
you've got
know.
that space to hold and to give to your child. So that's what I really say is the most important thing first. If ever, you are overloaded and you are working hard, but you need to find that time. And people just think, "You haven't got the time." You've got 5 minutes. You can
Yeah.
5 minutes
I
somewhere.
think that's the key, isn't it? I think like when I was a teacher, I worked like 60 hours every single week. And I worked 6 days a week because I wanted to be really good at my job and I was really good at my job. And I loved my job. So when someone used to say to me, "Oh, you just need to make time," my first response always was, "I haven't got any time. I
Mm,
haven't got any time." And I just really put my armor up straight away. And I really, in my mind, because every single minute of my week was
mm,
taken up being a teacher, being a mum, and trying to run a house and all of them different
mm,
things. So when someone tried to say to me, "Well, you just need to do something for yourself," I was like, "Oh, yeah.
mm.
Okay, yeah, of course. Oh, well, I'll just do something like that."
Yeah,
Because by the
yeah.
end of the day, I was too exhausted and I just wanted to collapse in bed. And I was already getting up really early anyway. But like something switched for me when I don't even know what it was, but something switched. Well, I was probably just going mad, if I'm honest. I was like losing my mind. I was just living in chaos for so long, and I just knew that I couldn't live in that chaos anymore. And all I did, and this is all I did, I just got up 10 minutes early and I started doing a meditation for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I always remember like and so I just did it and like and I never felt like it made any difference to my life. And I'd been
Mhm,
doing it for about 6 months. And then I just remember something happened. Something happened in school and this situation arose. And normally I would have like just I don't know, I'd have reacted in a very different
mm,
way to the way I reacted. And I just reacted in a totally different way. And I was like, I remember going home that night, like driving home in the car, and I was going, God, that was dead weird, wasn't it? I can't believe that I just didn't snap there. Can't believe I
mm,
managed to stay so calm. Why did I do that? And it just came to me. I was like, the only thing that had changed in my life was doing that 10 minutes meditation a day. That's the only thing that had changed. I was still working 60 hours a week. I was still up the wall. I still had no time. But that 10 minutes had compounded over them 6 months, slowly but surely. And it was
mhm.
making me react differently. And I learned over time that what I'd actually learned to do, so that little crappy 10 minutes I thought a day, just set my alarm at 10 to 6 rather than 6 o'clock, and just sliding out my bed and sitting on the floor with my eyes closed and literally doing nothing until the timer went off. And I was like, my mind was all over the place. I was like, just sit, just sit, just sit. And I just sit there. And that little 10 minutes over 6 months had realigned my nervous system. And I know that now to be true. So I was learning to react differently. And it
Mhm.
was it was mind blowing. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, well, if that's what 10 minutes a day can do. So then I started setting my alarm at 5:30. So then I was like,
Yeah.
well, what I'll do is, because I used to go to this yoga class once a week with this really lovely lady called Sarah, and she taught me to do like a little bit of breath work. I was like, well, what I might do is I might just do 10 minutes of yoga and 10 minutes of meditation. And then I started getting into cold water. So all I had in my life when I was a teacher for years was getting up at 5:30. I'd do 10 minutes stretching. I'd go
Mhm.
and do my little 10-minute meditation, and then I jump in a cold shower, and I just got ready and went straight to work, and it just made a huge difference. Now I know that's nothing to do with parenting, right? But what that did for me as a teacher and what that did for me as a mom was it filled my cup up at the beginning of the day, and my nervous system calmed down. My life was still total chaos, but the
Yeah.
way I was dealing with the chaos was different to how I was dealing with it before.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
less like, oh, I'm just up the wall all the time and, come on, get in the bath.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing all. I was like, I was just a
Yeah.
little bit calmer, and it was 30 minutes out my day. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to set my alarm half an hour earlier. Yeah, I had to have a little bit more discipline, but
Yeah.
I had to connect the dots with me doing that at the beginning of the day made my day go so much more smoothly. It made me a nicer person. It made
Yeah.
me a better teacher. It made me a nicer wife to be around. And it made me a better mum. And
Yeah.
as you say, once you start putting one foot in front of the other and then connecting the
Yeah.
dots to how that's having an impact on your life, it just led me down more
Yeah.
self-development. And in the end, I ended up giving teaching up
Yeah.
because I wanted to do something else with my life because I'll be honest, I just didn't want to work 60 hours a week
Yeah.
anymore. I just
Yeah.
didn't. But
Yeah.
all of the things I learned on that journey are
Yeah.
still with me
You
today.
need
So
that journey, don't you, of that learning to get to places where what you're saying is when you said it's got nothing to do with parents, it has everything to do with parents because that is the first part that I start with. And like you say, people think, well, I haven't got the time, and they'll get the backs up and they'll get defensive, like you said you did. But then when you realize these small incremental, this is what I say,
just
start with these small
so
routines.
small.
And I'm exactly the same. I do exactly the same. My morning routine is everything I speak about all the time. And when I don't do it, my brain is chaos. My day is chaos. You can't respond to things like you react to things. You're setting a tone for your day, and it's your nervous system. You're setting your nervous system up for the day. It's like if you're already up here, you've not got much space left. Then you're gonna flip. But if you're look at it as like you're gonna be bringing yourself down here and
Yeah,
grounding yourself, you're gonna have more space
yeah,
to deal with the more capacity to deal with the things that are gonna come up in the
yeah.
day. And that's what everything where it starts with the parenting and being able to show up as the way we want to parent. If we were just already like so full with everything else that's going on, we just haven't got that capacity to
No,
deal with everything else, and it comes out in our children.
it does. I watch it like I talk a lot about like in the work that I do is about, you you feel like what and I say and there might be dads listening to this as well. I'm sorry that I've said it so much about mums,
Mhm.
but as a mum, and I'm sure dads feel like this too, I'm sure they do. But as a mum, when you're running around after your kids and you are just bending over backwards for them, you feel like you're being the best mum that you can be, right? Because you couldn't do any more than what you're doing for them. That's not the perception your children have got sometimes,
Yeah,
right? But so when you kind of like try to do some little things for you, often what you've had to do is you've had to say no to someone, and it's
yeah,
normally your kids. So then you
mhm,
go into mum guilt. Oh my God, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to do that, right? But what your children will never see, and often what your children will make you feel a little bit guilty of that as well, because they didn't get what they wanted. So it'll be like, if you didn't get like as your kids get to like
yeah,
teenage, years, they want lifts everywhere. They want lifts everywhere. And
yeah,
for you to go like say like my youngest son, he always wanted me to pick him up from the Astro. He used to go like playing
yeah,
football with his friends. But for me to drive to the Astro to pick him up, and he always wanted to pick it up at 5 o'clock. So the
mm,
roads are chocker, by the way.
yeah,
So it'd take me half an hour to go and drive to the Astro, and then it'd take us half an hour to get back. Well, that's an hour out of my day. And the bus stop was right outside the Astro, and it would have
mm,
took him half an hour to get home on the bus. Well, that hour to me was too precious for me to keep giving that up to go and pick him up from the Astro. So in the end, I didn't want to be a total meanie and go, never, I'm never going to pick you up. So I just used to go to the Astro 5 times a week. I go, I'll pick you up twice, pick 2 days. But 3 days you get in the bus. So it
Yeah.
didn't look like a meanie. I was meeting him halfway. I was trying to find a
You're also modeling
compromise.
you're also modeling to him as well of having boundaries and being able to say no to
Yeah,
when you know, and respecting your own time as well, and
yeah,
he'll again, when you're not realizing, but you are actually teaching him that it's okay to say no to
yeah,
something that I don't want to do. We don't always have to people please, and
yeah.
that's amazing that you've been able to do that, because this is the thing as mums, we bend over backwards, we give everything to our kids, then we're burnt out, then we feel resentful, then we've got less
Yeah. Well,
patience.
we are resentful. I'd be like that in the car too. I'd be going like, I had to cook the tea, I didn't have time to come pick it up. So
Yeah,
he's sitting there like bit small because hasn't had to get the
yeah,
bus because he hates getting the bus. And he'll kind of listen to me moaning because he kind of got what he wanted. He got his free
yeah,
lift.
yeah.
But I'm fuming at him because, I haven't even done the tea. Now I'm behind on everything. I still
Mm,
have planning to do for school the next day. So I'm in a right state now. He's not seeing a nice version of me because no one really wants to sit in the car with someone for half an hour and be moaned at. But that's exactly what was going on.
yeah,
And then I'm probably going to like take that mood home and take it to my husband or my other
yeah,
son. Everyone got a bit of that without me realizing. But when I said no, he just cracked on, got the bus. He wasn't
yeah,
that bothered.
yeah,
And that hour of time, I was able to do the things that I needed to get on doing with. So it was just a win-win for everyone,
yeah,
if I'm being
yeah,
truthfully honest. But I think as mums, when we feel like we can't say no, and especially when we've said no to do something for ourselves, and then especially if our kids want to pick up on that and
mhm,
even have they might even call us out to being selfish, and that
mm,
right cuts deep to your heart when you first
yeah,
start doing this. But when I first started doing that, I got all of that. I got, Mum, you used to say something like to me, oh, you're doing something for you again. And I'd just go, at first I'd go, yeah. And I'd try and like justify why I was doing it. But in the
mhm,
end, I didn't, because what I saw, whether that was me going on a walk with friends, whether that was me going to a yoga class
yeah,
and they had to, like, someone else had to put them to bed, whatever it was, what I saw over time was me being a calmer, less passive aggressive,
yeah,
less
yeah,
resentful,
yeah,
less
yeah,
bitter,
yeah,
less bit,
yeah,
all of them lovely things that no one wants. I became less of all of them. So
mhm,
I saw the ripple effect of me when I looked after myself a little bit better. And it
mhm,
wasn't much, it was one class a week or half an hour in the morning or whatever it was. I
mhm,
saw the ripple effect on my children, my husband, my mum, and the way I was in my job. So
yeah,
when I try and say that to people now, I say you will feel selfish at the beginning. You will even get called selfish.
yeah,
I still get called selfish now, and I just take it. It just goes. It just rolls over me because I've got enough self-awareness to know when I'm doing it's all
yeah,
a bit
yeah,
too much about me, because
yeah,
sometimes it can be a
yeah,
bit too much about me.
yeah,
But and I'll know when I've got like a nice balance.
yeah,
What they can't see because they're in their own little world is the benefit they all get from me being in a
yeah,
better place. And I really truly believe that when mums understand that,
mhm,
they'll see the importance of learning these skills, and often you need to learn it from other people who's done it
yeah,
before in really small ways. So nothing overwhelming, with no
mhm,
judgment. There's
yeah,
no judgment here. All you have to understand is we all need a little bit of extra help in this
yeah.
department.
I
Um, and there are people out there who can help you do it.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that, the mum guilt goes back to that archetype of the mother and how we are meant to be. We're meant to be these givers, give everyone else and not put our needs first. That's what we are conditioned societally to see the mother as. So going against that feels wrong, and that's where the guilt comes from. So it's very difficult to overcome that, like, oh, I'm doing something myself, is that selfish? And then your kids again, they not understand that because they obviously they want you to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They're not seeing it from a lens of, yeah, obviously you're gonna have more in the tank, it's gonna, really impact how you treat them and your whole day goes. But also you're also modeling to them that no, you have boundaries, you have respect your needs, you're able to say no, you're not gonna like model to them a people pleaser and a pushover and stuff. We forget all these things again. That's like they'll then when they're adults are gonna probably be able to say no when I don't want to do something and put someone else's needs before themselves. It's like
Yeah.
it all really goes down to that. So it's getting over that thing of like feeling that guilt and that, oh, I've got to bend over backwards and I've got to, be this martyr and do everything for my kids. We're just completely doing them a disservice because, like you say, we just can't show up for them fully in and have that patience and have that presence and be that calm parent anyway, and also what we're modeling to them. So it's
Yeah.
twofold, like we
Yeah.
really need to look at it, but it really is a thing and of getting used to. And I think that's when I've done a video about it the other day about self-care and about we thinking, oh, it's like big spa days, it's all these big elaborate
I
like
know.
time
It's
thing. And
total rubbish, isn't it?
yeah,
They're
yeah,
like they're like the sprinkles, and if
yeah,
you're lucky enough to get the
yeah,
sprinkles, then I'm so happy for you.
yeah, yeah,
But the real self-care is the half an hour that you give to yourself every morning, or the half an hour that you give to yourself every night before you go to bed, where you like go and get a bath and you
mm,
just relax and you don't just flop into bed, or
yeah,
you get someone else to help you with like putting, especially, and I would really, really say that, and I know parenting's difficult through all the different stages of your child's life, but when you've got babies who are little and they're
yeah,
so demanding of your time and they're unable to do much for themselves, I really feel like
yeah,
this is where you need a little bit of extra help and a little
yeah,
bit of support, because if you don't get it then it's just going to keep going up
yeah.
and up and the kids get older and
I think also as well, being able to like we've got this mums have got to be this perfect image as well, being not having to be that perfect mum, being able to be okay with what you can do and not thinking, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing
yeah,
that.
oh yeah,
What
totally.
what can I do? Having to do all these activities, having to do all these elaborate
Yeah.
days out all the time, doing all these things, having a perfect clean home all the time,
Oh no.
being able to just be okay with not like having it, and then still investing in me well-being, doing all like, the Instagram now, all the matches and the yoga and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's not what we're advocating for when we're saying, the self-care,
No.
these simplistic things and being okay with it, not going to be this perfect cookie cutter image of this mother, being okay with not being like that and just and having the ability to just look at what do I need now, what can I do, not what should
Yeah.
I do, what is everyone else doing when we go into then comparison then, don't we? So
Yeah.
it's that's another important aspect of self-care, just being able to just like allow yourself to say, what can I do now? What do I have the capacity to do? Not
Yeah.
not where it becomes, oh, I've got all this stuff I need to do now. I don't want it like where you're saying you've got to like work on yourself, grow, do self-care, not that being like another chore and another
I
thing on
know.
the list.
And I think like to like kind of try and wrap like our little podcast up. This is a very, very complicated, and you could do this for absolute years and you probably will,
Yeah.
but do not let that overwhelm you from starting, because the
Mhm,
first step is the most important. Try
mhm.
to put your blinkers on and try not to look at what everyone else is doing, and just try to stay in your own lane
Yeah.
and just think of your little bubble as your own little
Yeah,
unique bubble,
yeah,
and the way you want to do it is very personal to you. And if someone's got an opinion on that, then that really is just what it is. It's just an opinion, but
yeah,
there's a lot of science that backs up exactly what we're trying to say here. And the people who are going to benefit from you taking one, and I mean one, tiny step on this journey is you, your children, your partner, and anyone who's in that inner circle. And it's just a step that I couldn't like be prouder of taking as myself when I had my children, when my children were very
mhm.
young. If I went back and did it again, I'd probably do it a little bit better than what I did it at that time. But I did take the steps to learn and, I don't know, be the best I could be with the knowledge that I had. And I
Yeah,
took away my ego and I took away all of them different things. But what I would turn around and say is, yes, time is, we're all limited on time. Please don't let time stop you. Lots of us are limited on money. It's a crying shame that this isn't offered
mhm,
as, a free service
Mhm.
as part and parcel of being UK citizens
Yeah,
and paying our taxes.
yeah,
You
I
know,
know.
it's a crying shame that
Yeah.
this is something that we would possibly have to pay for out of our own pocket, especially if money's already tight.
Mhm,
But what I do say to a lot of people is if you follow people on their Instagram profiles, they put loads of free stuff out there. Like if
mhm,
you went on your Instagram, which is Mindful Parent Club,
mhm.
and they just watched all of your free videos, they're
Yeah,
still going to learn so
yeah.
much.
I
And
I
if
do
they
have a I
then
do
decided they wanted to work with you on a one-to-one basis, then they can make inquiries, can't they, to do that as
Yeah,
well?
no, and I do have a three-part mini series where I've really shared like the exact framework I take parents through, so all the information there. But obviously, then you've got to implement it yourself, and that's the part where the coaching is really supportive because we
Yeah,
know the willpower alone and having the awareness of certain things. Sometimes we need the guidance and we need the reflection of like a coach or somebody to support you. So bringing
yeah,
these things into your awareness and to guiding you and leading you to make those changes because obviously it's like anything, isn't it? It's that having that willpower, and these things are ingrained things that we need to really over time, change, and that takes like action, consistent action to
yeah,
do
it
that.
does.
It's really,
Daily, but
yeah,
small, daily,
small, yeah,
consistent
yeah.
action.
Look
Because
at
as you say, we all fall back into a default
yeah,
mode, and our default mode is our own like personality,
yeah,
who we are as a people. Some people are more like
yeah,
naturally more fiery, naturally more like, submissive and
mm,
bitch more chilled out. And
mhm,
we've got a default, of how we were brought up and the conditioned behaviors that we might not even realize that
yeah,
we have. And when they really come to light is often like what you said. You thought, okay, yeah, so I had this upbringing, but it wasn't until that first serious relationship where you thought, oh, hang on
yeah,
a minute. Oh, am I doing that? Am I? And
yeah,
then when you become a mum, you notice it even more. So I
mhm,
suppose, like, my advice would be, please do follow the people who you think that can help you on this journey. And you can find you on Instagram as the
mhm,
Mindful Parent Club. Look at the videos that they've already put on their page. See if that's the kind of vibe that you're looking for. And then, make contact and see
yeah,
what free stuff they've got out there, and then what kind of programs they've got that maybe you would want to make that investment in yourself as
mm,
a mum, but most importantly, as a person. You know
yeah.
what I
As
mean? As a
as
person.
a person, yeah, that's so important.
That
Yeah,
is the key.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what piece of advice would you give
Yeah,
to like
I
the kind of
100%
people?
agree with you because you don't want it to feel like this overwhelming thing because we know when we're overwhelmed or confused, we don't do anything and that stops us. Looking at this as a journey that we can start from very small steps and changes. And the very first place I start my coaching is on the parent, on the mother, and how they are grounded, how they are showing up and working on them first. So like the conversation we've just had is really looking at how can I start to show up for myself and fill my cup more? Because once we've got more capacity, then we've got more space to do the things like the reflection and things that all started. If we're just completely running on empty all the time, we need to work on that first, which most of us are. So starting to look at that simple practice you can, and like you said, it looks different for everybody. It's not, the morning routine for me. Some people might like an evening routine. Some people might have different ways that they might be creative. There's certain all different practices that what makes you feel grounded, what makes you feel more in tune with yourself and with more space, and finding that, and then making sure you're giving yourself that being the start of it. And then I think everything else flows from there. Like you said, once you start investing in yourself, it's a natural process that it goes on and you start to see the
Yeah.
changes. You're like, oh, well,
It's
like,
addictive, and it's addictive
yeah,
because
yeah,
once you see the benefit that you start feeling from it, and then once you start to, because often other people don't realize that life got better because you started changing some of the
yeah,
things that you needed to change for you. They don't look at you and go, "Oh, mum changed. That's why
yeah,
everything's better now." They
yeah,
just enjoy that things
yeah,
feel better. They won't
yeah,
point, and you don't need to know that, but
yeah,
you know it.
yeah,
You know it because you made the changes that the ripple effect to your marriage, your relationships, anyone
mhm,
who's in your inner circle got better because you invested in you.
yeah. Yeah,
So I
100%.
always finish with this question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot,
Mhm,
but if I asked you what triumph means to you, how
mhm.
would you define the word triumph in your experience and, how you feel like it's worked best in your life?
I think triumph is when you have overcome, lots of different, like, challenges or things that you've worked through, like a journey that you've went on, and at the end, you've kind of achieved something or overcome something and made that difficult or challenging journey as such into something that has created something or you've learned from the process. That's what I think my journey is, as from what we started at my childhood and all my experiences has really helped me triumph into this what I'm doing today and in supporting parents. So that's what I feel like it
And
means.
the thing is, once you realize that you can triumph once,
Mm,
it makes you feel unstoppable to
yeah,
do
yeah.
something else, doesn't it?
Well, it's a
And
never going journey, it never stops. Yeah,
yeah, and I feel like what we've talked about in the whole like podcast is a triumph could be something so small. But
mm,
once you feel that triumph once,
mhm,
especially as a parent, like
yeah,
if you can just kind of see the effect of a change that maybe you made in yourself, and then you see how that had a positive effect on your child,
yeah,
that is like the most amazing feeling and can feel so triumphant. And you think, well, if I did it for that, well, maybe
yeah,
I'll do it for something else. And
yeah,
it's just like you said, that small, consistent action
mhm,
every single day.
mm,
That's what makes the
yeah,
it become even bigger and bigger. But there's
yeah.
just no magic wand, is there?
Yeah, no, not at all. But
I
no,
feel like
I challenge parents to do that if they're watching this and they're experiencing challenges and the parents in whatever way that might look. And we always feel like, oh, we need to get support or we need to fix this or that. Just look at first, actually, I challenge them to do that small, simple action of filling the cup and then see what comes from that and see
yeah,
how much like different you're looking at the situation and how
yeah.
much
But
different.
not just once. You
Yeah,
can't just do it once.
yeah.
You got
No,
to
no,
do
no,
it
no,
every
no.
day.
Yeah,
That like if you just
consistent.
give yourself that 10 minutes every day and then
Yeah,
you do it for 30 days and then you reflect back and go, "Ooh, how different do I feel here?" Because
mhm.
10 minutes is nothing. 10 minutes is nothing. And I have been the busiest person in the world. And when someone said, I've got no time, I'd say, I literally haven't got 5 seconds in the day. And then
Yeah.
when we really do a bit of a, what's that thing when you know, I don't know what the thing is, when you
Oh,
like, you do an
mm,
itinerary, no,
okay.
like something on your day, if you really looked at
Yeah,
how you spent every minute of your day and especially how much time you spent on your phone trying
yeah,
to escape or procrastinate or not
yeah,
do the thing that you're trying to not do, that 10 minutes that you spent doing that little scroll, or you could have like done a little meditation, or you could have done a little journal, or you
yeah,
could have done something, whatever
yeah,
it means to you. So
100%.
so
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
So can you just let people know how to find you
Yeah.
and how to access your services?
Yeah, so, on Instagram, it's at Mindful Parent Club, and, like you said, I've got a lot of content on there that is educational and kind of support. I do also have, a free three-part mini series, which, takes parents through my exact framework so that can help them to start overcoming any parents and challenges they're experiencing, and that'll help them feel more calm, more confident in the parents, and more connected to the child. So if they DM me calm, I can send them that, and then, on my if they want to have a little chat to me, just send me a message if they've got any questions about my support, how my one-to-one support works. I do offer one-to-one coaching. So if they just let me, I need to know a little bit more about parents like experiences that they're having, and then I can chat to them how that support might look.
Yeah, so someone can send you a message and then you can have a conversation with them and see if what you offer will
Yeah,
suit their kind of need. But the ideal thing would be though to get the three-part mini series. Do
yeah,
that because it's absolutely free, isn't it? So
that's
what do? They just DM you, so private
calm.
message you, calm, and then
Yeah,
you'll send that to their inbox,
yeah,
and then they'll be able to watch that mini series. And if
yeah,
they feel like that's something that they'd like to have a conversation with you about, they can send you a message.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so
And
much for coming on the
love
podcast.
that.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much.
Oh,
And yeah, if I'm ever lucky enough to be a nan or, whatever, if I come
yeah,
back in another life, I'm sure I'll bring all this knowledge with me as
yeah,
well.
I love it. Oh,
Okay, my love. See you soon.
thank
Thank you so much for tuning in to Challenges into Triumphs. If today's story moved you, inspired you, or gave you something to think about, I would love it if you could take a moment to subscribe, leave a comment, or share this episode with someone who might need it. You can also enjoy all episodes ad-free inside the Path for Art membership, and you'll also get access to monthly wellness and astrology workshops. It's just £11 a month and you can cancel anytime. So you can join us at pathforart.co.uk, and remember, you can listen to this episode on the go or watch it on screen. Until next time, keep going. Your triumph might be just around the corner.